Hey there, thanks for tuning into our channel. Today we're diving into a topic that affects every single one of us. Inflation. It's that buzzword you've probably heard a lot lately, but what exactly is it and how does it impact both retailers and us, the consumers? Stick around as we unpack this economic puzzle. Inflation, in its simplest form, is the general increase in prices and fall in the purchasing value of money. Picture it like this. Imagine you're on an escalator, but instead of you moving up, it's the prices of goods and services. They rise over time, just like an escalator. So, that soda you used to get for 2 quarters? Now, it needs 2 shiny dollar coins. That's inflation in action. It's like a sneaky little gremlin that quietly nibbles away at the value of your money. So the next time you're at the store and notice the price of your favorite soda has gone up, you know what's happening. Inflation. But it's not just about soda, is it? Inflation affects everything from housing costs to the price of a haircut. Inflation is like the silent guest at a dinner party, subtly influencing the menu choices. It's the unseen force that quietly nudges the cost of living higher and higher. It's not always immediately noticeable, but over time, the effects can be significant. Let's take a look at housing costs, for example. If you've ever rented an apartment or bought a house, you've probably noticed that the price you pay today is likely higher than it was a few years ago. That's inflation at work. It's the reason why your grandparents could buy a house for the price of a car today. Similarly, when you visit the grocery store, the price tags on the items you purchase aren't static. They change over time. Have you noticed how a loaf of bread, a gallon of milk, or a dozen eggs cost a bit more than they did last year? Inflation's the culprit. And it doesn't stop at goods. Services are also affected. Ever noticed how the cost of a haircut, a plumber's visit, or a yoga class creeps up year after year? That's right. Inflation's got its fingerprints all over those price increases too. Inflation isn't just about price hikes though, it's also about the purchasing power of your hard-earned money. As prices rise, the value of your money falls. That means you'll need more money to buy the same goods and services you could afford with less money in the past. So, picture this. You're on a treadmill, and inflation is the speed control. The faster it goes, the harder you have to work to keep up. If you don't increase your income at the same rate as inflation, you may find yourself falling behind. Inflation is a complex economic phenomenon, but its impact on everyday life is straightforward. It influences the cost of everything we buy, from the roof over our heads to the food on our tables, from our morning coffee to our evening entertainment. So, whether you're buying a house or getting a haircut, inflation is silently shaping your spending habits. Inflation doesn't just mean higher prices, it also affects how much you can buy with your hard-earned dollars. Imagine you're a fan of apple pie. You've been baking this delicious treat every Sunday for years, and the cost of the ingredients has always been steady. But then inflation steps in. Suddenly the price of flour, sugar, and apples all begin to climb. Now your beloved apple pie is costing you more to make each week. This is where we come face to face with the eroding power of inflation on our purchasing power. You see, when prices rise and your income stays the same, you're essentially able to buy less with your money. In other words, the same paycheck you've been receiving every month is now worth less in terms of what it can buy. Let's stick with the apple pie example. You used to be able to make 4 apple pies a month with your fixed income, but with the rising prices, you can now only afford to bake 3. Your standard of living, measured in apple pies, has effectively dropped. But wait, it gets even trickier. Not only are you able to buy less, but you're also likely to feel the pinch in other areas of your life. Perhaps you'll need to cut back on other expenses like dining out or going to the movies to accommodate for the higher cost of your baking habit. So you can see how a rise in general price levels can make it harder for consumers to maintain their standard of living. It's like being on a financial treadmill where you're running faster and faster just to stay in place. Inflation can be a subtle thief, quietly nibbling away at your purchasing power. It's a bit like a diet. You don't notice the small changes day by day, but over time, they can add up to a significant difference. In other words, inflation can make your dollar feel like it's shrinking. We might not be able to see it physically, but when it comes to what that dollar can buy, it's definitely getting smaller. Now that we know what inflation is and how it affects us, the question is, what can we do about it? Well, let's start by understanding that inflation is like the weather. We can't stop it from happening, but we can definitely prepare ourselves for it. One of the most effective strategies to deal with inflation is investing. This could be in assets that tend to increase in value over time, such as stocks, real estate, or even certain types of collectibles. The idea here is to put your money into something that isn't going to lose value as the cost of everything else goes up. Another strategy is to focus on increasing your income. This could mean asking for a raise at work, starting a side hustle, or enhancing your skills to make yourself more marketable. The key is not to remain stagnant while everything else is moving. After all, inflation is like a treadmill. If you're not moving forward, you're moving backward. And what about the role of government and central banks in managing inflation? Well, they have a couple of tools at their disposal. Central banks, for instance, can increase interest rates to slow down the economy and reduce inflation. Governments, on the other hand, can use fiscal policy, such as adjusting tax rates or government spending, to control inflation. However, these tools are like a double-edged sword. If used incorrectly, they can lead to other problems like unemployment or economic recession. That's why it's crucial for these institutions to strike a delicate balance when it comes to managing inflation. But let's not forget, it's not all gloom and doom. Inflation also has its benefits. For instance, it can encourage spending and investment, which can stimulate economic growth. So while we can't stop inflation from happening, we can certainly equip ourselves to deal with it. It's all about being proactive, staying informed, and making smart decisions. Remember, knowledge is power, and in this case, it can also be your shield against the rising cost of living. Inflation might be a fact of life, but that doesn't mean we're powerless in the face of it. So, to wrap things up, inflation is the rate at which the general level of prices for goods and services is rising. It's a bit like a sneaky cat, creeping up on you when you least expect it. We've discussed how it slips into our everyday lives, subtly increasing the prices of our morning coffee, our favorite pair of jeans, even our beloved Netflix subscription. And let's not forget the impact it has on us consumers. It's like being stuck in a never-ending game of tag with your money. The faster you run, the faster it runs away from you. But it's not all gloom and doom. We've also explored some strategies to deal with inflation. From smart shopping and budgeting to investing in assets that increase in value over time, there are ways to outsmart this sneaky cat. And remember, understanding inflation is the first step to making smart financial decisions. So keep an eye on those prices and stay savvy. For more insightful content, remember to hit like and subscribe. Thanks for watching, and until next time, stay informed.